right. Hey, everybody. I know folks are still joining, but I think we got folks from everywhere, I think, or at least a good collection. So, if you can, I am going to, we're just troubleshooting a little bit on our end relative to how everyone's set up. So give us just one more second. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Rochelle, is there, do folks have chat as an option or just questions on the attendee side?
There should be a chat option for all folks, but there is also a question. There should be an option to raise your hand as well. And once we see your raised hand, we'll pause and we can unmute you. So there's a few different options for people to participate.
Amazing. All right, everybody, we are going to see how this goes as we meld different infrastructure. So please bear with us. My computer is freaking out right now. So I'm going to do some quick agenda setting for us as we jump in. So if folks want to do introductions in the chat or through questions, we'll capture everybody who is here. We're going to spend the first bulk of our time with Rochelle walking us through some new HMIS related training. This is going to be related to data entry for all of the provider partners. And then once that part is over, we will then go into some more programmatic items with introductions, some new All Chicago team members, talk to you about a program manual, some reminder, and then, of course, space for questions. So again, thanks, folks. If you want to introduce yourself, I think through questions, and feel free to either put in actual questions you might have or raise your hand and we will let you come off mute. But with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing so that now Rochelle can start walking us through the HMIS training.
Also give one second here. Yes, I am now. All right, so hello everybody, good afternoon. My name is Rochelle Fajardo. I am the HMIS training coordinator over at All Chicago, and I'll be going over the state homeless prevention training course. Now we do have a bunch of attendees here, so later on, I'll talk about like next steps, but the goal is so we can go over the content, and then there will be an LMS course that will have the same exact content, which folks will have to finish afterwards. Again, I'll come back to that later, but I just kind of wanted to preface that. Make sure you're paying attention. All right, so state homeless prevention. So this is going to walk through some data entry training for state homeless prevention providers. Our agenda will be, first part will be introduction, hopefully some stuff you guys already know since you've been working in the program for a bit. Second part will be the HMIS workflow, and then the last part will be that knowledge check that you guys will all do on your own. I see that there is a question. These notes will be available later. This webinar is also being recorded, and that will be available as part of some resources for you all later. And I'll show you guys where the resources will be available after I go for the presentation. Okay, so introduction, just a quick overview. State HP offers assistance with rent or mortgage payments, security deposits, utilities, as well as case management, supportive services for individuals and families facing immediate eviction, foreclosure, or homelessness. The supportive services are focused on preventing homelessness and are designed to help stabilize families in their current homes, reduce the time spent in shelters, and assist in obtaining affordable housing. Payments will be made directly to the service provider on behalf of the participant. Eligibility. State HP requires a lot of documentation. So households must document and provide evidence of at least one of the following reasons on this list. So this list comes from IDHS. Loss of employment, medical disability, loss or delay of some form of benefit, natural disaster, substantial change in household, victimization by criminal activity, legal action by landlord, displacement, or some other condition that kind of falls under some of those on the list. These households must also show that they may be able to meet future rent, utility, or mortgage payments after assistance. They must be able to document how they are experiencing homelessness or at imminent risk. Okay, so to providers now. Caseload management. Providers will receive referrals of cases from Homeless Prevention Call Center, HPCC. Participants will be calling HPCC, who will then assess them for eligibility and then will be referred to a homeless prevention provider. These providers may also serve walk-ins as it in line with the expectations of their own individual contracts. That's it for the overview. The next part will be starting to walk through this HMIS workflow. So there are a few steps to the HMIS workflow. The first part will be to receive that referral. 2, contact the participant. 3, update the referral need status. 4, document and obtain and document client consent. 5, project enrollment and data entry. And 6, project exit. The first part will be the receiving referrals part. First part is receiving referrals. So the way we're going to be receiving referrals is through the HMIS, and then the providers themselves can set up accounts report in order to see these referrals that you are receiving. What I'm also going to do as part of this training is to hopefully also not just walk through some screenshots, is also just show you how to do it within the HMIS itself. So the accounts report is going to be the best way to identify some referrals. And I'm going to walk through those instructions. So to set this up, we're going to go on your dashboard. Okay, there is a panel that says Customize Homepage Dashboard. We're going to add Accounts Report. And that will open a dashlet that will allow you to set up 4 different reports, so you, if you so need them. So we're only going to set up one. You only need one, at least for state homeless prevention. The specific one we do need to set up is going to be called Incoming Referrals Report, and it was all incoming referrals. So the thing about the accounts report, unfortunately, is that you can't really filter them once you've received them or you've enrolled them. You're just going to see everything. So the way you can filter it out is by dates. But either way, we'll be just set up to see referrals just for your provider. So once that is set up, it will show up on your dashboard kind of like as a table, and then you can open that to see a list of clients that would be there. So that will show us here on the dashboard. So this one's already set up, actually. So this is what the dashboard looks like. Should all be familiar with HMIS. So at the under the system news, there's a panel that says Customize Homepage Dashboard. I'm going to open that panel, add Counts Report, and that opens this table for us. The pencil, this is the Edit Dashlet window. And then we're going to look for the one that says Incoming Referrals. You can filter today for what time frame you're looking for. I'll say this week. Provider type should be provider, and then we're going to find a provider that the provider that you need, the state homeless prevention provider. We're going to select that and click OK, and then that sets up the that will be now set up in this quadrant until you take this off. So it's always going to be there with those parameters whenever you log in. So you see that there's a number here. Once I click that number, it pulls up accounts of how many clients that have been referred to that program within the time frame that you had already set the parameters. So if you notice that I set it up for this week, so that's going to keep changing, obviously, since like as the day goes, it'll just be within that week, that 7-day period. So it's on a rolling basis. Okay? So that is the accounts report. Now let's go back to our training. So we have received our referral. Our next step will be to contact the client. Okay, contact information is always found in the client profile. So note that when you get there, sometimes it takes a few seconds for the sub-assessment to appear, but it's going to be called client contact information. If that table is blank, that means there wasn't anything put in the system about their contact information, so don't be alarmed. Everyone should have visibility into this. If at any point you don't even see this table, please reach out to us and then we will figure that out on the back end. So we collect the contact information. I will walk through kind of what the protocol is in the next slide, but clients who cannot be contacted cannot participate in the program, so they won't receive a project. So at that point, once we exhaust the contact protocol and you cannot contact them, we're going to skip and just update the referral need status to cannot be contacted. So again, I will come back and show you guys exactly where that would be. I don't believe this particular client actually has contact information entered in here, but it would be here, client profile, and then if we scroll down, it would appear in this section essentially. This is not a very good example because it doesn't have one set up, but that would be where it would go in theory. Okay, so the contact protocol. So for state HP, when you lose contact really at any point, this is kind of our base, the base contact protocol is that you document at least 3 attempts to contact the client. From my understanding, that's off of HMIS. There's internal systems that set up to do that as long as it's documented with at least 2 days between each contact. So after contacting, completing those at least 3 steps, and we cannot contact them, we're going to update that referral need status to SHP, not able to contact. I will be walking through how to update that in the next step. Then they have, after the referral need status has been changed to not able to contact, they still have an extra window of 30 days where if they are re-engaged, meaning that if they reach back out and you're able to contact them within 30 days, then we can re-enroll them or restart that process again, and then make sure you're updating the referral need status as that's happening. After 30 days, though, they will need to be sent back to HPCC just to make sure that they are still eligible for the program. So they have the 3 attempts plus 30 days to get back in touch with you. Okay. The next step, again, is that updating the referral need status. So need statuses are going to be that primary form of communication between state HP projects and us, essentially, this kind of going through, not us, HPCC, I mean, just to make sure that everyone understands kind of the status of each client that's being referred, and some data can be collected about it, or extra support can be provided, and Yeah, so the referral need status must be updated each time changes occur in the case. So examples are the client moving through the program, you've contacted them, things are happening within the, through their application. Another reason you'd update it is if you lose that contact, as I mentioned in the last slide, if you've attempted to contact them 3 times, then it is time to update the status to cannot be contacted. And then again, you would update it another time if you re-engage them within 30 days of losing contact. I'm going to now describe the steps of how to update it. So referrals are found in the Service Transactions tab of a client record, and then we're going to view the entire service history. And the next step is to locate that referral. We're specifically looking for a referral from HPCC. So the provider that's sending the referral is going to be indicated in the need row. Notice here the need row says HPCC. The referral is going to the provider that's receiving it, the state HP program. We want to click the pencil next to referral. Clicking the one on the need will get you there eventually, but it's much easier to get lost because you'd have to click a few extra windows to get to the right place to update it. So the best way to approach it is to just click the pencil next to the referral. Once you get to that window, we'll scroll to the very bottom and find the need status and outcome table. It's always at the bottom. And then we would select the appropriate need status that they would need. So all state HP need statuses that should be used has the initial part SHP on it, so they're easily found. And then here is a table that corresponds to each, that provides a description for each need status. So when providers first receive a referral, the need status will be identified. Once you receive the referral, to indicate that you have seen the referral and are acknowledging it, providers must change the need status to in progress. SHP client declined is if the client was contacted but they chose not to proceed. SHP not able to contact, this is that you have exhausted the contact protocol and you cannot reach them, so this is the need status for that. Client ineligible, this means that you have met with the client and you have interviewed them, and somewhere down the line it was determined that they're actually ineligible for the program. And at this point you would, in theory, have an enrollment already, so you would not only just update the referral need status, you would also exit them from that enrollment. Again, I will come back to that once we get to those questions where you might determine your client ineligible in the assessment. Client enrolled, you've contacted them and you have now created an enrollment, you've done the assessment with them, so that is they are client enrolled. Client funded, this means that they have been approved and you have received that information. After this, you would also then exit them from the program. SHP All Chicago denied request. This is for clients and whose was not funded. You would also then exit them after this. SHP no funding available. This would be used later in the fiscal year for referrals that are started but unable to be served because funding has run out. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize this. There is an article that we'll share at the end for resources, and you can refer to it. So we will share it later. And then for any client, as I mentioned, if there's a client that's found ineligible, we also need to fill in the reason. So under need status, there is a question that says if need is not met, reason, and then here's another table that will describe how you should use for each reason, how you should use each reason. So an eligible crisis, insufficient income, could not document eligibility, and fraudulent documents. So those also have that tag of SHP, so they'll be pretty easily found. Any questions about the referral need status? Maybe some later. Okay, so now I am gonna show you guys how to do that with our sample client. So here's our sample client, John Smith. He has received that referral from State Homeless Prevention here. Once I find them, all right, we're gonna go all the way back. So just to kind of quick review, go to clients. You would either type their name or their client ID. But I did find this referral from that counts report that we pulled earlier. So if I could just click that too, that would take me directly here. So either way, this is how you get to the client record. I have contacted them, and now I'm going to receive that referral. So I'm going to click this pencil. This takes me to the edit referral window here. If you scroll at the very bottom, we're going to see this need status table. From identified, we're going to go to in progress. Or maybe at this point, I've already contacted them and I'm going to start the process of enrolling them. Then I would go down here and say enrolled. And then I'm going to save and exit. Just set that up there so that our next step is actually enrolling them. Before we enter any more data into the system, we need to obtain and document client consent. So once you have contacted your client, you have documented into the system that you have received that referral. Now we need to provide them with their client consent. So anytime a client's data is shared at all in the HMIS by a provider, then the participants should receive some consent forms that they consent to sharing their information with the providers in the continuum of care. So we can still update the referral need statuses if you still have not received their consent. But once you enroll them, they should already have provided consent. These forms in particular will outline what and why the client's data is being collected. The supplemental clarifies and contextualizes what is done with disability information, which I believe for state HP, there is no disability data really being collected, so that doesn't apply. It also outlines how the client's data is being protected and their rights to their data. So this is just kind of ethical practice of receiving consent. Data can really affect someone's livelihood, as we've seen in this day and age. So part of providers' responsibility is to clearly explain what will happen to this information that we are collecting to them and what will happen if they choose not to. So some important things to note about, if you take anything else about the consent forms, these are some stuff that is important to note about them. So the data collected that is in the HMIS is used for the purpose of program, service, or housing eligibility, for providing care within different providers, and then it really provides a lot of valuable insight to the community and to all the folks that are managing these programs and how services can be better utilized, distributed, and ran for the most part. Each participating agency signs an agreement to protect client data and to only use it for its intended purpose and complying with all laws and regulations and how data is being used. Clients should note that they always have the right to change their documented consent at any time. Clients 18 and over should have their own consent forms completed. In the case of state HP, only the head of household will be documented in the system, and so no other clients really need an ROI. And then finally, let's encourage clients to consent to sharing their information when it's appropriate. Choosing not to share their information means choosing one of the limited options. Kind of delays their services because it would have to go through a process of unlocking the record and verifying why it was locked in the first place, and then that will then delay further coordination to their services. There are extenuating circumstances in which the record should be locked, no questions asked, and that's in cases like domestic violence, human trafficking, and unaccompanied minors. Okay. So to document that release of information, we're going to do it through the client profile. So we provide it to them and must be documented in the system. So all providers know kind of what they have previously said. This is what it would look like. You can add it through their summary or through an ROI tab. And this is what the entry window will look like. Again, I'll do like a quick entry after this and the training site. So households, check off the household that should be included. Again, this is only for head of household, so they should be the only one checked in. Provider, this should be your agency as a whole. Their information is being shared to the agency as a whole and not just the state HP. So that should be the provider here. Release granted, so if they select A or B, this should be yes. And then for again, we're going to disregard the supplemental because we won't need that for state HP. It is a no if they say yeah. If they say C, does not agree. Start date should be the date that you received that consent, and the end date should be 3 years after the start. Now, there's some agencies out there that do have their own kind of workflow and when these consent forms expire and renew, and that's totally okay as long as it is consistent and you guys do have a process of making sure that when you are servicing clients that they have a valid ROI on file. So this is just kind of a standard 3 years, as long as you guys have a process, it's fine to use a different time frame. Documentation is just documenting what they selected on their response. And then remember that some records may need to be locked depending on what they've selected. And then the witness is whoever provided that and received the consent from the client. So again, we're going to go here. And John Smith has provided an ROI to a safe haven. So here is our John Smith, a safe haven, lease granted, yes. They provided this to me today. So I'm gonna add 3 years to that. He's allowed us to share, and I am the witness. And that is all we need. Make sure this is open. Okay. So our next step is project enrollment. I see a question here from Pete. Do we no longer need to upload the signed consent form to HMIS? No, there's no requirement to upload the signed consent to HMIS. Step 5, project enrollment. So when we've contacted our client, we've obtained their consent. At this point, I had already changed our referral need status to enrolled prior because I had already contacted the client. We were already in the process of doing this enrollment, so now we're going to complete the assessment. So we would again go back to navigating to the client record, and through entry exit or the summary tab, we can add a new enrollment. Only the head of household should be enrolled. This is a default setting, so we don't even really need to worry about the household members area at all. Provider should be your project. Type is HUD. Project start date is the date of enrollment, and then we will complete the state homeless prevention assessment. Okay, so this module in particular is going to go through each question of the state homeless prevention assessment and some guidelines to collecting that data. Just in general, all assessment data should be collected from and self-reported by the participant, and the information should be accurate to that day that you are interviewing them, accurate to that point in time. First question is that enrollment COC question. This question should always be Illinois 510. The next one will be household type. It's just selecting what type of household the participant is requesting funds for or in behalf of. Relationship to head of household. Again, we're only enrolling the head of household, so this answer should always be self. Date of birth, self-explanatory. This is used to calculate age. And then depending on the data that is provided, make sure you are also completing the question date of birth type to indicate the quality of the data you've entered, whether it's all of it, partial, they don't know, they didn't provide it, the data wasn't collected. Race and ethnicity. This question is multi-select, so if you hold the control key, you can select multiple selections. If clients identify as non-Hispanic Latino, Latina, you don't need to type that in, just not making sure it's not selected already indicates that they are non-Hispanic or Latino. And there is a text box under for additional race and ethnicity detail. That is any extra detail about their race and ethnicity that's not available on the list. Here is a table that describes the responses available. If you're interested in looking at this list and description in detail, it's going to be available in the training or through the data standards. And through the training, there's also another video in it, so again, everyone will have access to it. But I will also just show you guys shortly how to complete the whole assessment, kind of live. I'm just kind of going through each of the questions. Gender, similar to race and ethnicity. It is multi-select. If you select different identity, because they self-reported a gender that's not on the list, there is a text box for it. And then here is also the HUD definition of each. Gender. Okay. Additional households members demographic information. This is a sub-assessment that's been previously in the assessment before. This is nothing new. We've kind of just updated some questions to the new data standards requirements. A separate entry should be entered for each household member. So if John Smith has just another partner with them, one entry. If they've got 3 kids, 3 entries. One entry for each household member. And just a few questions about each of those household members. So we'll leave the start date as is. And relationship to that head of household, we're looking for an age, race and ethnicity, and their gender. Total monthly income. The specifics of the income is already collected elsewhere. So this is just kind of an add together the cash income. So there's a list of HUD defined income sources here that I'm not really going to go through. Just make sure you're putting the total just in this one box, one question. There are two questions that apply only to the current request of funds, and these questions are used for context in the case, but not impact their eligibility. So they're asking about eviction. So they served an eviction notice, and is the eviction under the client's name? There's a question that indicates where the referral came from. And then this section is program eligibility. It's not quite titled program. There's a few questions in this section which will help determine eligibility to the program. Have you received these funds in the last 24 months? This is a yes or no question. So there's no cap for how often one can receive a they will just need an exception if they've been served in the past 2 years. So it's important to flag that client for that reason. Type of economic crisis, and if others, please specify. So type of economic crisis is going to be a drop down, and if other is a text box. It's over here. And according to the manual, the items on this pick list, as we've discussed earlier in the program and the eligibility slide, those are the only ones that are eligible. Clients that provide a crisis outside of the items in the dropdown are ineligible, and the next steps that should be taken is you got to stop the assessment, exit the client enrollment, update the referral needs status to SHP client ineligible. And then reason client is seeking assistance, select the most appropriate goal, maintain, move to another permanent housing, and move from shelter to permanent housing. What is the client's monthly rent and total fund amount requested? These questions help determine the benchmark of assistance the client can receive. Participants can receive up to 6 months of rent, and the information provided is to know their individual cap. So that is that's information that's being used in how the funds are being distributed. The next set of questions pertain to the required services that state HP programs are required to provide to participants. This section can be used to as a checklist, essentially, to make sure that those services were provided. So that is screening them for SNAP, or HEAP, where they screened for other benefits, where they provided case management, provided financial counseling. Was the household informed about the post-exit 3-month follow-up? And then the last question will be a text box to provide any additional context that you think might be helpful if they are seeking services from a subsequent project. So it can be as brief as more context will be entered in form assembly. Now I'm going to go back and kind of walk through how to create an enrollment to our John Smith. So we are here, entry exit, add entry exit. Again, I don't need to check anybody off because only John Smith should be enrolled. My provider should be State Homeless Prevention. Type will be HUD. Save and continue. And that takes us to our assessment window here. At any point you accidentally click a different provider, I can just change that here, select the right one, click update. I don't need to delete it. It will always be HUD. And then this is our assessment here. Oh, I see. Okay, you know what? We are not, the new assessment is not on the system yet. I actually have to go elsewhere to find the new assessment in the training site. So 1 second. I believe it is in a test. Project. Maybe not. Okay, I know that it's in the live site. Sorry about that. Oh, there was a state HP project. Hmm. 1 second. 1. Got it. It's not, was not state homeless prevention, just regular. Okay, there it is. So here is our new assessment, State Homeless Prevention 2025. Okay. As I mentioned, that first one is enrollment COC, Illinois 510. John Smith is a single male. This should be left as self for head of household. Date of birth type, pretty self-explanatory. You've got our race and ethnicity here, and gender. Both are multi-select if you hold the control button. Additional household members. So if there are no additional household members that they are applying funds for, so I would need to do nothing. I wouldn't need to do anything in this sub-assessment here. If I did, then an entry would be added for each. Total monthly income, data, they have 500. Source of referral is HPCC. And again, here are those questions. Have they received these funds in the last 24 months? Type of economic crisis. Reason they are seeking assistance. What is their monthly rent? Total fund amount requested. This, you might know how to answer this better than I can. The 2 following questions only apply to the current fund. So these are those eviction questions. These required services. Because the state HP program doesn't need updating, you are able to come back in here and update this as you provide these services to folks. And then the narrative. Any questions about assessment questions? Awesome. Okay, so we have completed their enrollment. So during the enrollment, there is a contact protocol. So if contact is lost at any point in the enrollment, we would follow the contact protocol that we had described before. So the 3 attempts, 2 days between. If after the 3 attempts, the provider is unable to regain that contact, we need to exit them. And then again, make sure you are changing that referral need status. If they were re-engaged within 30 days, create a new HMIS enrollment. So once you exit them, they are exited. We're going to create a new enrollment after the fact. If they are re-engaged after the 30 days, then they should then be directed back to HPCC for a new referral. So after the 3 attempts, exit. Within 30 days, new enrollment. After 30 days, direct them back. So another part of the contact protocol is that when supporting clients in securing those relevant documentation or a new housing plan, we provide 3 weeks of case management of assistance. Providers should. During that period of time, they have an open enrollment in the system. So they should have an enrollment the whole time. And their referral needs should just be SHP client is enrolled. If you still need more time, you have an extra 30 days after that. If within the 3 weeks plus extra 30 days, they still are unable to secure that documentation or housing plan, then they need to be exited. Then we go back to that re-engagement. If the client gathers their documentation or housing plan within 30 days, then we would create a new enrollment. If the client returns after the deadline, instruct them to call the contact center for a new referral. Last step is the project exit. Participants should be exited from the program when they have been found ineligible. So as we discussed through the intake, through conversations, if they have been found ineligible, exit them, update referral need status. Providers have received notice that the household has been denied or approved. At that point, we would exit them. We would also update the referral need status to client funded or denied. Contact protocols have been exhausted. When contact was lost midway, and 3 attempts have been documented, or when clients have been unable to secure documentation after 3 weeks of case management and a 30-day extension, or a new housing plan, we would then exit the client from the project. I'll go and show you guys how to exit them. Even exit here. So we've got our enrollment. And we don't need to do any updates, so we don't need to do any interims. So our exit date here. Reason for leaving. Depending on how they have left, whether the program was.
So I don't think we were planning to use reason for leaving.
Okay, you're right.
That's why there aren't any specific SHP items.
Okay, awesome. So not a requirement, but destination is required. So please just select the most appropriate choice here after leaving that program. So whether they have their own rental with no ongoing subsidy, or they will have that subsidy, and housing vouchers. Save and continue. And there's no exit assessment for it. So that's it for the exiting of the enrollment. But again, when you exit them, make sure we go in here and update our referral to indicate the change, whether they have been declined, they have been found ineligible, or they have been funded. Remember, if they have been found ineligible, this is that if need is not met, and those have not been added to the Oh no, they're over here. These, if need is not met in the live site, does have the SHP tag. I'm just remembering that we are on the training site. So on the live site, this will have the SHP tag on it, just like how it is in my screenshots in the training. Okay. And that is all for the workflow. So the next part will be the knowledge check that I will kind of, I'm not going to go into them, but there is only 5 questions, and it's going to go through each of just a couple items that are that we've gone through. And I have a slide that kind of describes what the expectations are for everybody. But before that, I'll take a pause and see if anybody has any questions about the workflow in general before I talk about training expectations for everybody in the LMS. Thanks, Beth, for answering all of Maurice's questions. All right. Okay. So the expected next steps. So all attendees, so we have a list of all the attendees that will be enrolled in the state homeless prevention course. The existing one has already kind of been updated, and it has reset everybody who has already been enrolled in there. After the call, I'm going to use the list of attendees to kind of make sure everybody is enrolled in it. If you are attending, the content that we covered, which is the introduction and the HMIS workflow, will be manually completed. So you don't have to complete those again, but you do have access to them again. And in the LMS, the training has narration in it. At the very top of the course will be some linked articles, and that is also where we will place a link to the recording of the webinar in the future. So we'll send those out to all attendees as well, but it'll also be available within the course as an extra resource. So attendees will need to complete the knowledge check, again, 5 questions, and accounts report assignment on their own. I'll show you guys what those will look like in a second on the LMS. And then the final step will just be to update the help desk of completion, and that instruction is provided within the course as well. So on the LMS, if you attended, this is what your dashboard may or may not look like, but at the very least, the state homeless prevention workflow should be at 33%, at least. You have to have completed the introduction before this is entered. So if you get here and your state homeless prevention course says restricted, that must mean that you have not completed the introduction. So if that's the case, reach out to us and then we'll get you enrolled into the right places. So once I click my state homeless prevention, the first 2 is already completed for you or will be completed for you. But I can still go in there and access it if I need to. So I can still kind of go through the content. These are the same exact slides I just went through. Introduction, the HMIS workflow, table of contents is over here if you need it. And then you can expand it into a full size if you'd like. And again, there is narration on some of them. Knowledge check. So that will pick up kind of where we left off. There's going to be 5 quiz questions here to go through. And then a setting up accounts report question and assignment, which I will show you. This is what it will look like. So we're asking folks to set up accounts report and essentially give me a screenshot of you setting it up. So you would log on to the HMIS training site, just kind of how we've done, set up an incoming referrals counts report for your state HP project, and then take and upload a screenshot of the whole window. So I'm looking for this whole window with the counts report set up accurately to your project. So a screenshot of this window set up correctly, because I'm looking not only for the account, the report being set up correctly, but that it is under your account and that you are not in EDA mode. So this cannot be done in EDA mode. So that is the second assignment for that. And the final step would be to submit a ticket to the help desk, letting us know that you have completed the training. If you can, provide us with your LMS username so that we can confirm. I see a question. If we already have accounts report set up and are using it, do we still need to do this portion of the knowledge tests? Yes, please. We'd like to know that you are setting it up correctly. And setting it up in the training site, if it's set up already, all you need to do is click the pencil and then send me a screenshot of this window. So it doesn't take, you don't have to like reset it up really. Just show me that it's set up. If you have it up in the live site as well, you can use that screenshot. So as long as there's proof that you have set up the incoming referrals counts report for your specific provider. I hope that answers your question. And I believe that is all for me. Is there any additional questions?
Amazing. Thanks, Rochelle. We will go ahead and continue on, I think, with the content then. So I'm going to remember how to re-share my screen. Look at that. Okay, I'm on the wrong slide. So just to make sure for folks who are looking at that content and thinking this mostly seems like what I already am expecting, that I was already doing, really the noteworthy changes that you should have caught are that you have to be updating the need statuses for all referrals to track the case throughout the life of working on it. There's also, we think, some updated guidelines on when to enroll clients and when to exit them from your project. That is also really important. And you may have noticed in the assessment, there used to be questions about other services provided, and those are no longer there since you put them in the form assembly. So those are the major changes. We can certainly keep talking about HMIS if folks have other questions, but otherwise we'll move on to the other parts of our agenda. So first up, we have some new All Chicago staff. Liza and Simone, you want to come on in, introduce yourselves? You should be able to unmute yourselves. Liza, you want to try talking?
Am I able to be heard?
You are talking. I can hear you, Simone, not you, Liza. So Simone, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Simone Turner. I go by pronoun she, her, and I am the program manager for SHP. I'm super excited to be in this role. Looking forward to working with everyone as well.
Can you hear me now?
No. Oh, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Liza Duchesneau, pronoun she, her. I am the senior program manager for homeless prevention funds here at All Chicago. Just started a couple weeks ago, and excited to work with you all. I've worked with some of you before, so excited to keep those relationships going and see how we can move this this program forward. So excited to get started.
So please note, Kristen and Claire and Noelle are still very much involved right now. We are going to be making this transition slowly. We'll be communicating with all of you as and when we hit the point when we'll stop having Noelle, Kristen, and Claire continue to support the program. That is not now. So as I believe that you've already been asked to do, just make sure Liza and Simone are on your emails when you're communicating with us so that we can start that transition. We also will be adding 2 more staff as coordinators for the team. So Liza and Simone are in that process. And then the last thing about our new staff to share is, as folks know, we had meetings with most of you in October, some slightly before. Stay tuned for a redo of those meetings in December. They'll have updated data to talk to you about and just a little more opportunity to get to know each of you individually as partners. So know that those invitations will be coming for yet again a round of one-on-one meetings with each of the partners. So then the last other thing we wanted to share with you is we have been putting together a program manual to try to bring together the information to questions and other things we've been sharing with you, as well as some of the content like that contact protocol that you all had seen, I think it was last month or the month before, that was pretty robustly reflected in the HMIS training, all together in one place. We know that many of you are experts in this program, but with an eye towards the fact that sometimes new staff come on board, sometimes new partners come on board, we have been working to put together information into a manual. So the manual has this as its table of contents. There's a program overview, participant eligibility and referrals, participant support, case file documentation, contact expectations, financial management, and common eligibility issues. So I've noted in a couple of places where in particular you'll find what might feel like new information. So in the participant eligibility and referral section, you will see it says that you should initiate contact of all referrals within 5 business days. So to Maurice's question that came in earlier, we are setting as the expectation, and again, that would mean changing the referral need status will be how we know that you did that, from identified, which is how it comes to you, to in progress, right? Because you've begun the communication process and attempted to reach the client. Participant support and case file documentation, as well as the overview, doesn't have any new information, just largely bringing it together. The contact expectations is the contact protocol we had previously shared with you. And then in the financial management section, there is a little bit of new information, and that common eligibility issues are really just case examples of times when folks send in questions as a reference. So just wanted folks to have it. So within the financial management section, this is a new thing, which is if a case is on hold because you've submitted the case, we're asking for more information for some reason, and so it's sort of in that pending status on hold. We are going to be looking for those cases to be resolved within 45 days of notification. So that a notification is when you receive that weekly tracking email that we've sent you. So you'll have like about it's a month and a half to resolve any of the on hold issues in terms of like getting the client's documents and things like that, or depending on when we actually get to it, the case may need to be resubmitted. And this is to help ensure, as you are well aware, if too much time has gone from when they have the crisis, it becomes increasingly hard to justify that they need the financial resources. And so that is a new thing that we are instituting. Again, we'll be sending out the manual along with these slides, and then we'll have all the follow-ups from Michelle for all of you. But just wanted to note those couple of changes so that you can focus your review of the manual. That's all the content. I have a slide of reminders, so I'll pause to see if anybody has questions. And again, also, you're welcome to raise your hand, and we can also have you come off mute. So I will wait a moment. All right. So reminders. Some of you have already done this, but if you haven't, your follow-up reports are due tomorrow, so please make sure to get those in. If you send them to the team, they generally route them to me, but please mostly send them to me. As far as what we just rolled out and the HMIS data entry, in particular, management of those referral need statuses, we expect you to do that for all referrals since November 1st. Today's the 14th, so we're asking you to go back 2 weeks and make sure we know the outcome of every referral by going through and putting in the correct referral need status for them. We're not going to ask you to go back and do it for the earlier months, so if you really want to, we won't be mad, but at the very least, we'll be looking for all referrals that your agency has received since November 1st to start to have those need statuses updated. And as you begin working with clients, making sure that you're complying with the expectations related to the enrollment and how to manage them. So again, since November 1, and the team will be sort of checking to make sure. We know it might be a little bit slow as you get started, but want to get started with this because we think it's really important towards better understanding all the work you all are doing that we weren't otherwise seeing through the information you give us. As far as a couple of next steps for the HMIS training that Rochelle mentioned, which is the quick 5-question, what'd she call them? The knowledge check, and then the screenshot, we're looking for that to be done by next Thursday. So that should be pretty quick. If there are any staff at your agencies who did not attend today, but use HMIS, please be in touch with us so that we can set up a reasonable timeline, but they all need to complete this training. We'll figure out what that timeline looks like. My guess is by the end of that week after Thanksgiving, so that we make sure everyone knows how to complete this. We then ask for you to review the program manual and let us know if you have any questions or concerns. As a reminder, in particular, as we are heading into a holiday season, you're supposed to let us know if you have any changes in staffing or coverage, which includes if you're going to have staff who normally take referrals out on vacation, so that we make sure that we're not flooding an agency with referrals that no one's going to contact. So please make sure that you're communicating about that with the team. And then lastly, to the training content that said, there's sort of balance of community referrals versus HPCC, just as a reminder that in all of your contracts for this year, it says that should be a 30-70 split, with 70% of your clients coming from the call center and 30% that can be walk-ins or other internal referrals. So that is really everything. And we will pause and see what other questions folks have. All right, we'll take your silence to be both a sign that it's kind of clunky to use GoToWebinar, so lesson learned for us, and also that this all makes total sense, and so you feel ready to go. We won't keep you longer. We'll send out the slides, we'll send out the manual, we'll send out all the links and content for Rochelle. That might come to you actually individually as she's working through the attendee list, but please do make sure to get us your reports and complete these items by next week. And as always, let us know if you have any questions or facing any challenges, and just really appreciate all of your partnership, and look forward to Liza's emails setting up one-on-one meetings with all of you for sometime in early December. Thanks everybody for all you're doing, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.